everybody? This is your boy, Teran Rodriguez, bringing you another edition of Set Point. And as always, we have ourselves a jam-packed show as we have a lot of volleyball to discuss as MIVA Mania continues. And with Purdue for playing, taking down McKendree. Are the Mastodons for real? Also, how about Queens of all teams? Yes, that little team from North Carolina. They reverse sweep the Ohio State. How did they do it? And are the Royals really on the rise? Also, USC and UC Irvine did not disappoint, even though the first matchup wasn't televised. Who came out on top and who was able to win what match? Also, it was an exciting week in the MLD. You had the Orlando Falcons taking down the Omaha Supernovas. Are the Supernovas going backward when they should be going forward? Also, the Love Classic didn't disappoint in Kansas City, as who won which match when it came to which match. So hand me a volleyball, set the net, because I'm about to show you up the volleyball action here on Set Point. It's Teran Rodriguez bringing you another edition of Set Point here on iSports Radio. Your feed for all that is sports. And welcome one, welcome all to another edition of Set Point. Thank you all for joining me on this beautiful Monday afternoon, Monday evening, Monday wherever you are listening from. Either way, you've made your way in episode 338 of Set Point. And without any further delay, let's begin. But first and foremost, Set Point would not be where it's at without iSports Radio providing the platform to go live on YouTube and on X. Please do follow iSports Radio on several different social media platforms such as X, Instagram, and TikTok. Also, make sure to subscribe on YouTube. We would greatly appreciate it. We're trying to reach 500 subscribers. With your help, we can definitely make it happen. So please, please, please do follow and subscribe. Also, make sure to check out our website, iSportsRadio.com, for all of your latest sports news, our blog, our pages dedicated to each podcast, such as Set Point, as well as other sports all around the country. And you'll find so much more on our website. For the last 11 years, iSports Radio has been bringing you amazing content ranging from interviewing legendary athletes, coaches, and other authorized media personnel to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports cities around the country. Thank you to everyone for all of your support and for making iSports Radio your direct feed for all that sports. A huge shout to our sponsors, Planet Jerky, Premium Brisket Beef Jerky, and Vital Apparel. So without any further delay, let's get on into what our sponsors are all about. I will see you all in a little bit.
Hi, eSports Radio fans. This show is brought to you by Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky. Planet Jerky is the official jerky of the 2022 California League champion Lake Elsinore Storm, Single-A affiliate of the San Diego Padres. This all-brisket jerky has gluten-free options, contains no MSG, no sodium nitrate, is low in sugar, and high in protein. Go to their website at planetjerky.net and follow them on Instagram at Planet Jerky. Planet Jerky, the jerky that's on a whole other planet.
Rise and shine. It's 4 a.m. The stars are still out. The sun is beneath the horizon, but it's time to punch in and go to work. The comfort of your warm-ups turns into the grinding out of your reps as the clinking and the clanking of the plates create a symphony of euphoria. There's no other feeling like it. Earn it, burn it, and take what's yours. IE Sports Radio has proudly partnered with Vital Apparel, a brand that not only fits great, but also promotes and donates to mental health research. Use our code IESR to get 15% off their comfortable and inspiring gym wear and help them on their amazing journey to support mental health. Go hard, take part in your iron therapy, and be strong. Because when your mental health is as strong as you are, there's no telling how far you'll go. For the last 10 years, IE Sports Radio has been bringing you amazing content ranging from interviewing legendary athletes, coaches, and other authorized media personnel to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports cities around the country. Make sure to follow us at IE Sports Radio on X, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube to keep up with the latest in sports and with all of our shows. Also, make sure to check out our daily updated website at iesportsradio.com. At iesportsradio.com, you can see our daily show schedule and check out all of our show pages with personal bios to learn a little bit more about each of our awesome hosts. In addition to our show pages, you can catch the IE Sports Radio blog, Hall of Fame, Fans of the Month page, and our merchandise shop including t-shirts, tank tops, caps, long sleeves, hoodies, and more. For now over a decade here at IE Sports Radio, we've continued to be by the fans, for the fans, and we thank you all for your support and for making IE Sports Radio your direct feed for all that is sports.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Davidson.
It's your boy, Dentarius Lava.
And we are the hosts of Fast Break here on IE Sports Radio, where we discuss everything in the world of basketball from prep to the pros.
You guys should definitely check us out, man. Sunday, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. We got all the basketball information you guys need, so we look forward to you guys listening in.
And please do, because we are the best basketball show on this side of the Mississippi. And please do check us out on Twitter at FastBreakISR. D-Lock, where's our time again?
8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. That give you guys plenty of time on a Sunday.
Tune in.
That's right, everybody. Definitely check out all of our amazing shows dedicated to all major sports around the country. And once again, thank you to everyone for all of your support and for making IE Sports Radio your direct feed for all that is sports. And the way you can follow Setpoint on social media is on X, formerly known as Twitter, at set_point.ie. And honestly, that's probably where you're going to get most of my blow-by-blow matches for like NCAA and maybe professional. And also follow me on TikTok at set_point.ie. I know I got to do a better job of updating that. I promise you after this show, I will be updating that with my interviews and whatnot. So you have that. Also follow me on follow Setpoint on Instagram at set_point.iesr. You can also follow me personally on X as well at Teran Rodriguez 1. All right, now without any further delay, let's get on into the volleyball action. So obviously we have to talk some NCAA men's volleyball just because, well, it's pretty much what I was covering this past week. So we might as well just jump on into the match that headlined this past week, or the matches that headlined this past week, being USC and UC Irvine. So it was the battle of the unbeatens. And let me just tell you, I really wanted to be at this matchup. I really wanted to be at round one between USC versus UC Irvine. Why? Because it wasn't streamed. I know everyone and their mothers were griping about UC Irvine not streaming their match, and it really sucks. I wanted to be there in person. I know eventually someone streamed the match, and yeah, I guess they streamed it, and then they eventually posted highlights. I mean, I'm against streaming from illegally streaming, if you want my honest opinion. I get it. It's not right for UC Irvine to not televise this or stream this through ESPN Plus. But at the same time, it's not really right for you to stream in terms of whether you're a member of the media or if you're a member or if you're someone on the outside looking in, just because I don't think that's really fair for the school, but I digress. Anyway, that's my little bit right there. I hope I will never have to resort to streaming any sort of match. I know people don't want to pay. I know people can't go from one place to another. They can't always get to all around like I can in terms of California, but I digress. Anyway, so round one between USC UC Irvine. So UC Irvine took the first two sets, 26-24 and 25-22. Then USC really started kicking into high gear. Third set, they just looked strong. Fourth set, they eventually took it 25-19, and then third set, they took it 25-16. And then USC was up 8-6 at the side switch. Eventually, USC had match point at 14-13. UC Irvine stayed alive after USC's swing was called wide. Eventually, USC did put away the match courtesy of Dylan Klein, as USC took the match, winning set 5, 18-16, which was an amazing reverse sweep comeback. So what USC did to UC Irvine was basically what UCLA did to Long Beach State. But I digress. As Brian Francione pops in the chat room, he says, "Good evening, Teran." Thank you, Brian. I appreciate you tuning in and popping into the chat room, as well as last week. I know I didn't show your comment, so that's my bad. So for USC, they were led by Dylan Klein, who had 24 kills. Noah Roberts and Sterling Foley both had 14 kills. Klein also had 10 digs, and he also had 6 blocks as well. As a team, USC hit 326, which was pretty darn awesome. Parker Tompkinson also had 8 blocks and 8 kills. He was solid. Tyler Robinson also got the start for USC. Unfortunately, Wes Smith, looked like Wes Smith had a back injury on the second night. I'll get into that matchup a little later. But, yeah, USC pulled off an amazing comeback. They stayed undefeated. And then for UC Irvine, they were led by Will Darcy, who had 17 kills. Andre Jokanovic, he had 16 kills. And then Micah Goss had a career-high 14 kills. So, unfortunately for the Anteaters, despite some of these good numbers and despite Jokanovic getting 12 digs, they wound up only hitting 221. And this is a little tough. I mean, it sucks for UC Irvine, but I will also just say, look, there's a reason why they had a series instead of a one match series or a one match shindig. So it's unfortunate that USC, well, for UCI's sake, it's unfortunate for UC Irvine, they wound up getting reverse swept, because when I was seeing the score updates, I was thinking, okay, it looks like I'm not missing much. And then unfortunately, and then I had to start work. And then once I checked my phone again, I saw that UCI and USC were going to a 5th set. I'm just thinking to myself, oh, great. I guess I am missing a lot. So I'm just going to also say this. I really hate how UC Irvine had to have budget cuts. And I'm getting really tired of this whole addition, take away some of the small sports and then add it to like the big sports. It really is not working. Like, you have to divide it equally. I mean, Alan Knipe even spoke about this when I interviewed him before the NCAA tournament. Before I continue, Brian asked the question, is Southern California the volleyball hotspot in America? Yes and no. So I wouldn't say Southern California as a whole. I mean, there's other hot spots like Texas, sometimes Florida, maybe Arizona as well, Northern California. But there are other hot spots when it comes to volleyball. I mean, Southern California is one of the hot spots to answer your question, but I wouldn't say it's the main hot spot. So anyway, but thank you for asking that, Brian. Uh, Mikey asks how I made the graphic. I don't know. I didn't make the graphic. So anyway, so back to USC. For UC Irvine fans and for volleyball fans out there, UC Irvine only has one more non-conference match at home that y'all have to deal with non-streaming. So, but for UC Irvine, this was a tough loss for them. But they did manage to get their lick back on Friday when they took on USC at Galen Center. Now, this was the match that I actually attended just because, well, I couldn't make it on Wednesday and I felt really bad. So I had to travel all the way down to Los Angeles to cover this matchup. So in the end, USC unfortunately couldn't pull off the 2-match sweep. UC Irvine did get their lick back and they wound up beating USC in 4 sets. Now, I was actually rather surprised that UC Irvine had themselves a nice little bounce back. I mean, Will Darcy said it best after I interviewed him. Everyone has lost at every level. So in terms of like volleyball, so no one can really go undefeated. I honestly don't even remember the last time a team went undefeated. It had to have been like a UCLA team. I'm going to be 100% honest. I think it was a UCLA team back in the day. But for UC Irvine, they were able to take down USC. They got off to a hot start in set 1. They were just serving aggressively. Wound up winning set 1, 25-20. Second set, USC tried to make a little bit of a push, but they were down 1 at 24-21 or 24-23, and then they just missed a serve at a set point. So UC Irvine was up 2-0. USC managed to get off to a hot start. UC Irvine closed the gap, but Dylan Klein eventually closed the set off with a back row kill. And then the 4th set came. USC got off to a hot start, leading by as many as 4. UC Irvine closed the gap. UC Irvine took the lead. And then it went back and forth between UCI and USC. Eventually, Andon Kiriakou was able to close the match with a kill off the block, and that was how UC Irvine was able to take down USC in 4 sets. So I was very impressed with the Anteaters' resolve to flush their loss down the toilet, as Will Darcy led the way with 21 kills. You also had Andre Jokanovic, who had 15 kills. You got Andon Kiriakou and Micah Goss with 8 kills. For UCI, I think this is a massive win on their behalf just because, well, for starters, they won't be going into their match against UCLA on a 2-match losing streak. In addition, they'll also be getting some backup coming back as Trevor Clark will be back in the fold hopefully when UCLA comes to town. So UC Irvine doesn't have another match this week. So they'll be watching a lot of film on Long Beach State, UCLA. So they have that right there. But UCI really showed a lot of grit and resolve. And honestly, I was very impressed. For USC, they were led by Dylan Klein, who had 23 kills. They also got 12 kills from Cooper Keene. So honestly, look, USC, I guess Noah Roberts was struggling when it came to the match. So Jeff Nygaard kind of threw in Cooper Keene off the bench. So Keene is only a freshman. So there you have. So Keene was able to act, and he actually plays outside primarily, but he actually has done a good job of playing oppo. Sterling Foley had 10 kills and 11 digs. The funny thing about Sterling Foley is that he actually was not 100%. So going into this week, he had a torn ligament in his thumb, but he still played. I guess he had it heavily wrapped. In the second match against UC Irvine, Sterling Foley actually, I think, might have tweaked his right knee. So you notice when he plays, he has a sleeve on his right leg. He tweaked that leg or he tweaked that knee, and he wasn't 100%. So yeah, it was pretty tough for him to just continue to play, but I've seen him play through pain. It's rather impressive. And then Tyler Robinson added 10 kills. Now, Tyler Robinson was actually a very, very pleasant surprise. I think he's really come alive ever since Wes Smith got hurt. So I really hate to see Tyler Robinson go back to the bench, but Wes Smith is one of the better options. But Wes Smith has to get back on the court. So my takeaway for USC is this. Yeah, their first loss sucks. That being said, they don't have another match for another 2.5 weeks, so they can get a little bit of rest and a little bit of recover action before their next match. So USC will be playing UCLA in MPSF action on March 3rd. I know it's like 2 weeks from tomorrow. So yeah, March 3rd is their MPSF opener against UCLA at Galen Center. So that's a match I'm hoping to be at. It's not set in stone, but it's a match on a Tuesday. Whew. So USC's got to get healthy first. If they can get fully close to 100%, and if they can get Wes Smith back, that would be awesome. But USC is not the only one that's dealing with injuries. There's a lot of teams dealing with injuries and inconsistencies. So Mikey Two Guns has asked me a plethora of questions. He says, "Who do I have winning it all this year?" It could be anybody. It's either Long Beach State, UCLA, or USC. Maybe Hawaii as well. That's kind of my echelon right there. And then he asked what happened with Trevor Clark. He got hurt in warm-ups, and he had to miss the Concordia Irvine match last week. No, well, not last week, but the previous week. And then he had to miss both USC matches. So yeah, that's what happened to him. And then he also asked, what team has been the biggest surprise to you this season? Lindenwood and Ball State, just because Ball State has only one loss, and they even played UCLA really tough. And then Lindenwood, they had one loss going into last week, and that was to Long Beach State in their season opener. So those two have kind of been a surprise to me, if you want my honest opinion. Like, those teams from the Midwest are rather an anomaly, if you ask me. But they play some darn good ball. And then he also asked, how was the atmosphere at the match you attended? I would say it was decent. I wouldn't say it was like Long Beach State UCLA from a couple weeks ago, but it was still pretty darn good. There was a good, nice little turnout. I mean, I wish there could have been more, but honestly, it is what it is. And Irvine fans don't want to drive all the way down to Los Angeles on a Friday because, yikes. The traffic there on like the 405 and the freeway is just a pain in the you-know-what. So, yeah, I can understand why Irvine fans don't want to make the trip and other fans don't want to make the trip on a Friday, because that's a nightmare in terms of dealing with traffic. But that's why I have to leave pretty early, but I digress. Anyway, so that is that for USC UC Irvine. Fun little matchup right there, and you already know I'm going to be covering more matches in the near future. So moving on to the other notable matches. So I talked about the sneaky matchup between Concordia Irvine and UC San Diego. Well, UC San Diego didn't get the memo as the Tritons swept Concordia Irvine. The Golden Eagles of Concordia Irvine are on the struggle bus. There's no better way of saying it. So, and they also swept him again at Irvine. So UC San Diego just continues to win. They haven't really popped out to me as of late, but Concordia Irvine is still a solid team. It's just that they need to get back on the winning track. So now let's jump on into MIVA action on Thursday. So let's jump to this little matchup. Let's rip the Band-Aid off with this matchup. Lewis versus Loyola. Long story short, when it came to this match was a rather underwhelming. I'm not saying that in a negative way for both these teams, but I'm saying that because Lewis came in limping. They didn't have Osan O's. They didn't have Osan O's. And Loyola still didn't have Ryan McElligott, so they still had to roll with Alex Smits Van Noyen. Either way, Loyola swept Lewis. So this was kind of a nice little win right here for Loyola Chicago. I mean, it's not the greatest win just because Lewis is battered and bruised, But Alexander Sosa led the way with 16 kills for the Ramblers, who hit 329. Lewis, on the other hand, they didn't have one player crack double digits in terms of kills, as their kill leader was Frederick Kruger-Beer, who had 6 kills. That's when you know Lewis misses O's on O's when it comes to their offense. It really, really is a big loss for them. Like, you already know you have no idea. And this next MIVA matchup actually featured a nice little top 15 matchup. It featured the number 12 McKendree Bearcats taking on the number 8 Ball State Cardinals. So McKendree was kind of in need of bouncing back after they suffered a tough loss to Loyola. Unfortunately for them, they kind of ran into a red-hot Ball State team, as the Cardinals were able to take down the Bearcats in 4 sets. The Cardinals, they were led by Ryan Lewis, who had 17 kills. Will Basilio added 12 kills. Patrick Rogers added 10 kills. As a team, the Cardinals hit 370, while McKendree hit 237, as the Bearcats were led by Sam Hoskin, who had 11 kills. Will Klimek, Tyler Tripp, and Roland Lively all three had 9 kills. Nathan Flater was Mr. Double-Double with 35 assists and 15 digs, and he had 4 kills to boot. Unfortunately, it was just not enough, as the Bearcats suffered that loss. And unfortunately, it kind of got worse for McKendree. And I feel bad for them just because they're actually a pretty solid team. Closing off some MIVA madness, we had Lindenwood taking down Purdue Fort Wayne in a 3 sets. It was a sweep. It didn't come easy just because Purdue Fort Wayne, they're a solid team. It's just that, unfortunately, they kind of didn't play the right players. But Caden Whiteside and Brendan Luthane led the way for Lindenwood, both having 10 kills. Lindenwood hit 329. They only needed to play 7 guys. They only played their 7 guys, and that was it. And then Purdue Fort Wayne, they were led by Carlo Huiston, who had 10 kills of his own, but it wasn't enough, as Purdue Fort Wayne missed a whopping 20 serves. Ugh, that's not good. But Lindenwood just continued its hot start. Like, that Lindenwood team is really good. Like, I talk about them being my surprise team. I really think this is a team that really can actually sneak its way into the NCAA tournament and maybe even win the MIVA tournament. But it's all a we'll see process. Continuing on with some MIVA mania, we had this little upset right here. Purdue Fort Wayne upsetting McKendree in 5. So this was a darn good big win right here. So, like I said, Purdue Fort Wayne does have some guys. It's just that I didn't expect McKendree to just lose to this team. I know they were on the road, but man, that's tough if you're McKendree. And yeah, it sucks for McKendree just because Purdue Fort Wayne, they got a big night. So you remember when I said that Purdue Fort Wayne didn't play the right players? I didn't know who this guy was until he took the court. Logan Muir. He had a whopping 32 kills. He hit 455. He had 11 digs. He had 4 aces, and he had 3 blocks. That is a lot of stat stuffing right there. Bro was literally prime Luka right there. It was unbelievable. And then their next kill leader was Owen Banner, who had 11 kills. But back to Logan Muir, he had over half the kills that Purdue Fort Wayne had as a team, which was just incredible right there. And Purdue Fort Wayne hit 281 while holding McKendree to a solid 252, which wasn't terrible. Purdue Fort Wayne also outdug McKendree 53-49. They did get outblocked, but not too big of a deal, as McKendree was led by Sam Hoskin, who had 21 kills. Bryce Wetjen added 15 kills. Tyler Tripp added 10 kills. And Roland Lively added 7 kills. Unfortunately, McKendree just fell short, and you got to kind of wonder why McKendree is just on a slippery slope. It's like they're on a little bit of a downward spiral just because I thought they were going to be a little better. I thought that they were honestly going to have a little bit more success in the MIVA. They haven't had a whole lot of success ever since that Lewis win. They've lost 3 straight, which is starting to make me wonder what's going on with McKendree. I mean, they just need like some sort of like momentum, or they're starting to get into the thick of their schedule. But I'm still a firm believer in McKendree. I think they have a darn good team. It's just a matter of getting back on track and finding the momentum when it truly matters. So we had that matchup right there. Then we had this little special matchup. We had the battle for first place in the MIVA. You had Lindenwood, who was winners of 9 straight, taking on Ball State, who was also on a little bit of a winning streak. Lindenwood took the first set quite convincingly, but then the rest of the match was just all Ball State. They took the second, third, and fourth set by scores of 25-16, 25-14, and 25-14, which was just incredible. This is kind of the Ball State we were all expecting to see, as the Cardinals were led by Will Basilio, who had 13 kills. Ryan Lewis added 11 kills. Patrick Rogers had 9 kills. Lucas Machado had 7 kills, as well as Will Patterson. He had 7 kills. Ball State hit 442, which was just incredible. And they only missed 14 serves, which isn't bad by any standards. They also held Lindenwood to only 204, and they held him to without a service ace, which was pretty nice. As the Lions were led by Luke Kraft, who had 15 kills. Their next kill leader was Brendan Luthane, who had 9 kills, but unfortunately it was just not enough, as the Cardinals cooled off those Lions. So there you have it right there. So now to get on into some other matchups, you had Lincoln Memorial outlasting Belmont Abbey in a 5-set barn burner. So Belmont Abbey is actually receiving votes in the ABCA poll, while Lincoln Memorial is number 19 in the poll. But Lincoln Memorial needed all of that and then some in order to win, as the NCAA isn't displaying their names on the final box score, which is rather unfortunate. I mean, it shows that the NCAA doesn't care about men's volleyball, which is just pathetic. Anyway, but I will also just say Lincoln Memorial almost got reverse swept, but they were able to outlast the Crusaders in the 5th set, 16-14. And then we had this little fun matchup right here. We had Penn State outlasting Princeton in 5 sets. So just like Lincoln Memorial, Belmont Abbey, Penn State almost got reverse swept, but then they were able to take control in set 5, as they were led by Sean Harvey, who had 22 kills. Matt Luoma, Jaden Bethel, and Tristan Hassel each had 11 kills. As a team, Penn State hit 302, and winning in Dillon Gymnasium is not an easy thing, as Princeton hit 229. They were led by Owen Mellon, who had 16 kills. Andrew Werner added 14 kills, and Ambrose Engling had 13 kills. Nolan Kelly also had a double-double. He had 43 assists to go along with 13 digs, but it was not enough. The interesting thing about Princeton is that they only missed 12 serves. Unfortunately, the true stat where they got outblocked, or the true stat where they got outdone in, was blocks, as they got outblocked 16.5 to 8.5, which is not good by any standards. But I will give credit to Princeton. They're getting better. It's just a matter of just trying to put 2 and 2 together. And then I guess another MIVA matchup that I missed was Ohio State taking down Queens in 4 sets. So Ohio State winning was the good news. The bad news for Ohio State was that they lost their star player, Shane Wetzel, to injury. So unfortunately, this match wasn't streamed, so I can't can't really talk about what happened with Shane Wetzel, which is lame if you ask me. And colleges don't have to report any injuries. This isn't like the NFL does, but man, losing Shane Wetzel to injury is not good. That is a massive loss for the Ohio State. They need Shane Wetzel, as Daniel Hurley and Stanislaw Chichinski are both going to need to step up big time. BYU swept Menlo. Number 1 UCLA swept number 17 CSUN. You also had Charleston sweeping George Mason in EIVA play. There was another matchup. Quincy took down Fort Valley State in 5. And I guess it wasn't on this day, but It is what it is. NJIT wound up winning their 7th straight match as they took down Harvard in 4. That's a team that's been red hot as of late, and I think NJIT is really coming alive. And then lastly, Hawaii swept Stanford at Stanford, which shows that Hawaii can win any place, not just on the island. And Hawaii didn't just sweep Stanford once. They swept them twice. So, yeah, for those that still doubt Hawaii, you ain't doubting them any longer. Not that I was doubting them by any means. Back to EIVA play. So, jumping to Saturday, George Mason got revenge on Charleston, and then they swept Charleston. Penn State swept Princeton in EIVA play, which was a big win. And, yeah, for Mark Pavlik, he took down Princeton both times in the regular season after losing to them twice. Well, at least his team did, as Penn State wound up going 2-0 in New Jersey, which is pretty darn good. And then we had this little gem of a matchup. We had Pepperdine outlasting UC Santa Barbara in 5. Now, this was a little fun matchup right here. The Waves needed everything and more in order to avoid getting upset by the Gauchos, but they were able to pull off the win. Cole Hartke led the way with 23 kills. Ryan Barnett added 16 kills. Jose Gomez added 9 kills. Pepperdine hit 317, and they had 8 service aces, 3 of which went to Barnett, which was good. They also got 11 digs from Jacob Riley and Andre Polomak. And then for Santa Barbara, they were led by Ethan St. and George Bruning, both having 15 kills. Their next kill leader was Riggs Guy, who had 7 kills, but he also had 7 errors and 7 digs. So he kind of had a 777, but the 7 hitting errors doesn't really do him any favors. Anyway, Santa Barbara only hit 164, which is not going to win you a whole lot of matches. So, but Jason Walmer did have 10 digs, so I guess I'll mention that. But good fight from Santa Barbara. Where was this Santa Barbara team against USC? And Pepperdine, what on earth are you doing? Why are you needing 5 to take down Santa Barbara is decent. I wouldn't call Santa Barbara bad, but the Santa Barbara team that I saw wasn't as good as the Santa Barbara team that I saw against Pepperdine last Saturday. So you had that right there. And you also had Long Beach State sweeping Vanguard. Vanguard was actually pretty decent in the 3rd set, but the Beach was able to bounce back and take down the Lions 26-24 in that 3rd set, as Long Beach State bounced back from their loss to UCLA, and now they can prepare for UCLA this upcoming week. But we still had Sunday, and we had a monster upset. So we had Queens of North Carolina, taking down number 11, the Ohio State, in 5 sets. This was a reverse sweep for the ages. And the 5th set was actually really good, as Queens was actually down 11-6 in the 5th set. But then they turned it around, wound up winning the 5th set, 18-16. I know Ohio State did not have Shane Wetzel. This was their first full match without Shane Wetzel. But man, Queens, look, I did a feature on Queens for middlehitter.com for friend of the show, Kevin Pratt. And one of the players that I interviewed, he said that this is the year that Queens can contend in the MIVA, which I think is definitely, they weren't lying, because Queens has actually had some good matches in the MIVA. They were competitive against Ball State, and they were competitive in the first match against Ohio State, even though they resulted in losses. And then I get it, Ohio State didn't have Shane Wetzel, but Ohio State still had Daniel Hurley, and they had Stanislaw Chichinsky, even though he had a rough night or rough match. They also had Brady Jones in the middle and Ian Nolt as well. So I kind of don't understand how Ohio State lost this. Were they really that lost without Shane Wetzel? Anyway, for Queens, they were led by Casey Moss, who had 22 kills. They also got 9 kills from Chance Champagne, and then 8 kills from Nathan Voppel. As a team, Queens hit 276, only had 4 service aces. They were active in terms of blocks. They had 12.5 blocks. The Buckeyes were also quite active in terms of blocking the ball. They had 15 blocks, but they only had 26 digs compared to Queens' 40. So that's something you also have to take into consideration. Charlie Podgorny Podgorny also had 42 assists and 10 digs for the Royals. And for the Buckeyes, like I mentioned, Daniel Hurley, he led the way with 21 kills. Ian Nolte added 11 kills, but it wasn't enough as the Buckeyes suffered their first MIVA loss. And with that loss, they actually are the only undefeated team in the MIVA is Ball State. So the Cardinals are soaring high in first place for now. But that'll do it for the week 7 recap of the NCAA men's volleyball season. All right, let's go into the AVCA poll for this week. And hold on, I actually messed up on the date here. Bear with me for a minute. Let me just get the correct date up in here. Ba-bam. AVCA men's volleyball poll for this week. So UC Irvine and USC swapped spots. I kind of understand why, but I kind of don't. I mean, Irvine did win more sets in the match against USC, or in the 2 matches against USC, so I kind of understand why UC Irvine goes up a spot. UCLA garnered all but one first place vote. I mean, it is what it is. I mean, I'm not going to complain all that much. I think Long Beach State definitely is deserving of being the number 1 team. I mean, they were up 2-0 on UCLA, and they had UCLA in the palm of their hands. Unfortunately for Long Beach State, they just couldn't hold on. That third set was what really turned it around. But I digress. Lindenwood moved up 2 spots, even though they lost to Ball State. Ball State moved up to number 8, which was big. No one dropped out, by the way. Number 19 is being shared by NJIT and Lincoln Memorial. Ohio State went down a couple spots. Lewis also went down as well. Santa Barbara went up a spot. So by the way, the MIVA has 6 teams in the top 15, and the Big West has all 6 teams still in the top 20, which is really cool if you ask me. So there's that right there for the AVCA men's volleyball poll. Now for the Off the Block media poll. So last week's poll was UCLA 1, Long Beach State 2, UC Irvine 3, Hawaii 4, USC 5, Pepperdine 6, BYU 7, Ball State 8, Loyola 9, and Lindenwood 10. So for this week's poll, I voted for UCLA 1, Long Beach State 2, UC Irvine 3, USC 4. I put USC over Hawaii just because USC did prove that they can take down top 5 teams. And I will say their loss to UC Irvine isn't as bad as Hawaii's loss to Loyola. So I'm not trying to slight Hawaii by any means. I just think that USC's win over UC Irvine is better than Loyola's win over, or Hawaii's win over Loyola. And their loss to UC Irvine is better than Hawaii's loss to Loyola. Now that we're looking at Loyola basically not being the team that they are. I mean, I get it. They're still missing Ryan McElligott, but I digress. So Hawaii 5, Pepperdine 6. I put Ball State at 7 just because beating Lindenwood and McKendree are both 2 really impressive wins, if you ask me. BYU, I still think BYU still needs to prove to me. They have a lot to prove to me. I really think BYU is still good, but Ball State has been red hot as of late. So do I regret it in the slightest? Maybe, but I think Ball State is ahead of BYU in my honest opinion. And then 9 is Lindenwood. I still think Lindenwood is a top 10 team in the Off the Block media poll. And then I put Loyola at 10. Last week I put UC San Diego at 10, but then I realized, oh wait, UC San Diego lost to Loyola, so why put them ahead of Loyola? So I put Loyola back at 10. So that's who I voted for in the Off the Block media poll. All right, now let's jump on into Week 8 preview of the NCAA men's volleyball season. So we have a lot of notable matchups. I mean, Week 8 started today. I mean, UC San Diego swept UC Merced. Then you had Roberts Wiseland sweeping Merrimack. They beat Merrimack in 4, and then they beat DeUville in 3, and then Merrimack beat DeUville in 3. So you had that right there. Glenn, thank you, Glenn Ritter. He pops in the chat room. He says, "Great insight, Teran. Thank you, Glenn. I appreciate that." And then that's it for Monday's matches. So Tuesday, nothing really jumps out in terms of the needle, if you ask me. Yeah, nothing really. I mean, there's SIAC play starts tomorrow. You've got Emmanuel of Georgia taking on Fort Valley State. I mean, not the glamorous matchup, but I gotta give love to the SIAC. I mean, I give love to a lot of these conferences. Also, you have North Greenville and King of the Conference Carolinas, as well as Belmont Abbey and Lees McRae. You have an NAIA versus NCAA Division 1-2 matchup. You got Hope International of Fullerton taking on Jessup, which I think is a pretty sneaky, interesting matchup. And then Wednesday, now we get on into the ranked matches. But first, Benedict versus Warren Wilson. Okay, Roberts Wiseland versus UMES. I think that UMES Roberts Wiseland match is an interesting matchup. UMES is the newcomer of the NEC. I think they should be able to win this one, but do not count out Roberts Wiseland by any means. Anyway, now for the ranked matches. So starting off, we have number 6 Pepperdine at number 14 UC Santa Barbara. All right, it's round 2 between the Gauchos and the Waves. This one I think can be a fun one. If we get the Santa Barbara that played Pepperdine tough, I think Pepperdine is going to be sweating this one out. But if we get the Santa Barbara that kind of got swept by USC, or the Santa Barbara that just didn't look like, or the Santa Barbara that got off to a slow start against Cal Lutheran, I kind of feel that Santa Barbara won't have a fighter's chance. But it all depends on which Santa Barbara team we get. I think this is always a great matchup, but it's a we'll see process. Also on Wednesday, this is probably the litmus test matchup. Tied for number 19, Lincoln Memorial plays at number 17, CSUN. This is a good litmus test on which team is at from both sides. Lincoln Memorial we need to see what Lincoln Memorial can do against a ranked opponent. We also need to see what CSUN can do against an opponent which is pretty much around their level. So you have that right there. I mean, they're slightly below their level, but you get what I mean. And Thursday, you've got MIVA action as well, with a little bit of some non-conference matchup between Barton and Emmanuel, and then you got Roberts Wesleyan and UMES round 2. Anyway, so MIVA Mania, Purdue Fort Wayne at Northern Kentucky. Purdue Fort Wayne should win that one. I'm trying not to make this too long, but I digress. So next MIVA Mania matchup we've got number 12 McKendree at number 11 Lindenwood. All right, this one's going to be a fun one. I want to see what Lindenwood can actually do. This is the highest they've been ranked in terms of the ranking, but they face a very hungry McKendree team that's lost 3 straight. If you're McKendree, what snaps your 3-game losing streak? Because the MIVA is just really good top to bottom. And then also on Thursday, you've got this little MIVA matchup. You got number 8 Ball State at number 13 Ohio State. All right, this would have been the battle for first place had Ohio State not lost to Queens, but MIVA Mania. So Ball State has been red hot, but they take on an Ohio State team that unfortunately is going to be missing out on Shane Wetzel. I don't know the extent of his injury, and I don't know his timetable. This isn't the NFL where Ian Rappaport is reporting on the injury and the status. Like, again, this isn't the NFL where you report injuries and whatnot. So I imagine Ball State wins that one, but do not count out the Buckeyes by any means. They still have talent on their team. And then Friday, you've got Long Beach State at UCLA. All right, number 2 at number 1. I only wish I could go to this matchup. I have plans that night. Man, this is going to be a good matchup. I mean, it's at Pauley Pavilion. This could be a preview of the national championship. The past 2 national championships have been Long Beach State, UCLA. This could be a preview for the 3rd matchup. But again, there's still lots of season to go. If there's one team that has a shot at beating UCLA, it's Long Beach State. I'm not going to say if Long Beach State wins this one, they're going to go undefeated. I think Long Beach State, if Long Beach State wants to win, they're going to need to really pass the ball well, because they did that really well, as well as serving and then finding the perfect target and then finding the perfect hitter at the perfect time. But they really need to play really well because that Pauley Pavilion is going to be packed. I would not be surprised if there was like, I wouldn't say it's sold out just because the Pyramid doesn't sell out like Pauley Pavilion does because there's like 10,000 plus that in terms of like seats at Pauley Pavilion. But at the same time, this is a matchup that no one's going to want to miss. So you have that matchup right there. You've got EIVA action with George Mason and NJIT. Like I said, NJIT has kind of been red hot as of late. I think they've won 7 or 8 in a row. They'll try for 8 or 9 in a row against the Patriots. Harvard, Penn State, that can kind of be a sneaky good matchup, but with how Penn State's playing in EIVA action or how they played in their EIVA opener, I think Penn State should win that one, but you never know. Fort Valley State BYU is an interesting matchup. I mean, Fort Valley State they're not ducking anybody. They are going after everybody that's ranked. They're going after everybody in terms of the hit list. Will they win this matchup? No offense to Larry Rather, but no. Will they be competitive against BYU? Yes. Will this help them out in the long run? Absolutely. Then you got UC Merced at CSUN. Kind of a good matchup. I mean, I'd be shocked if CSUN lost this one. And then you have a former NAI matchup. You've got Hope International of the NAIA taking on Menlo of the MPSF. And then you've got Stanford at Concordia Irvine in MPSF play. If I didn't have a match that I was going to, I would totally go to that one. That was probably the match that John Gurton wanted me to attend, but I unfortunately did have another match that I'm going to. I'm going to this little matchup, the Masters University at Vanguard. So you're probably wondering, why am I not going to Long Beach State UCLA? Well, I want to see what the Masters has in store. I don't really cover a whole lot of NAI, and it sucks because I really need to start giving the NAI more love. I mean, my show's already long with NCAA men's volleyball, but yeah, I think for this little matchup, this one is a fun matchup. I mean, Vanguard's kind of been on the struggle bus as of late, but the Masters College, I want to see what they can do, or the Masters University. But regardless, I want to see what the Masters can do. They're the reigning NAIA champions, and they can beat a lot. They've beaten some NCAA men's volleyball Division 1-2 teams. They beat Concordia Irvine. Unless Vanguard really shows up and shows out, I imagine the Masters will win this one, but you never know. And then we jump to Saturday. Saturday we've got wait. Friday. We've got tied for number 19 Lincoln Memorial at number 14 UCSB. Lincoln Memorial is on their West Coast road trip, and I love it. I am all for it. The Rail Splitters are looking to try to really prove themselves, and they're not ducking anybody from the West Coast. And speaking of which, Saturday they're at Pepperdine, or number 6 Pepperdine, that is. That's going to be a very fun matchup, but this is another barometer of where Lincoln Memorial is at in terms of like facing certain opponents. Like Lincoln Memorial is good, but will they be good enough to take down ranked foes? That is the $1 million question right there. And then also on Saturday, you've got Fort Valley State BYU round 2, and then Masters Vanguard is at the Masters University. Nothing really jumping out this week. It's a little bit of a quiet week in terms of ranked on ranked matches, as you only got 7 this week. But a match on Saturday that I might attend is Stanford at Concordia Irvine round 2. So again, I'm going to be in Redondo Beach that day. I'm probably going to be there in the morning, and then I'm going to be there, I imagine, not for like all day, but like probably mid-afternoon, like maybe 2 p.m., 3 p.m. So I'm hoping to get back to pretty much where I'm at, maybe Orange County, by like 3 o'clock. We shall see, though. I mean, I'm going to I'll put my name on the pass list just to be safe, but I can't guarantee I'll go to this matchup. But might as well go to as many college volleyball matches as I possibly can. So we shall see. So that is again, that's really much that. Again, it's a quiet week in terms of NCAA men's volleyball ranked versus ranked matches. Only 7, and that'll do it. So that's going to do it for the NCAA men's volleyball portion of this show. And I actually do want to give some shout outs to some of the people that I saw at the USC UCI match at Galen Center. One fan said, "I love your content." I'm like, dude, that means a lot. I didn't know who he was, and I felt bad. I'm like, oh man. I'm like, dude, I don't know who you are, but that really means a lot that you said that. So the fact that he just said set point, I love your content. It's like, I'm getting a fan base slowly but surely. So that'll do it for the NCAA men's volleyball portion of the show. We're going to take ourselves a quick commercial break. When we come back, we've got some NCAA beach volleyball to discuss for a little bit. And then we have the MLV, and then we have the LOVB or Love Classic. That was held in Kansas City. So don't go anywhere. You're listening to Set Point here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that sports. We'll be right back after this.
Hockey fans, I'm Adam Kernick.
And I'm Zach Puplis.
Together, we are the newest version of Hockey Talk on IE Sports Radio, The Neutral Zone.
Zone.
We love hockey, but we also know it's not everyone's first sport. So we want to make this show as much for new fans as for the diehards.
Whether you can name all the Swedes on the 08 Red Wings Stanley Cup team, or if you can't tell if Varlamov is a goalie or the latest trendy vodka, we're here to help. With facts, figures, and outrageous fans, we bring you all the hard-hitting hockey news you can handle, while still keeping it fun and on the rails. Well, mostly.
So tune in every week as we go around the hockey world, from college to Canada, the minors and the majors, and everywhere in between.
So bring your cellies.
And your one-timers.
You wicked wristas.
And be sure to protect your 5-hole.
Catch the Neutral Zone every week on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
We promise not to pick on the Arizona Coyotes every episode.
Hello, everyone. My name is Daryl Kinsey Jr., and I'm welcoming you to take another lap with the fastest show on IE Sports Radio. Yes, this is the Extra Mile with me and my co-hosts Christopher Lehman and Michael Ward. We talk everything racing from NASCAR to IndyCar to Formula One to limited hydroplanes, endurance racing, the NHRA, and more. So come join us for an hour of great racing talk and a lot of fun as well on the Extra Mile, Thursdays at 8 p.m. only on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Everybody, this is Teran Rodriguez. Are you a fan of volleyball? Are you a fan of Thunderous Spikes? Then I have the show for you, Set Point, where I cover NCAA men's and women's volleyball, high school boys and girls volleyball, beach volleyball, and even professional volleyball. Catch the action every week here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
And we are back with Set Point here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that sports. Definitely check out all of our amazing shows dedicated to different sports all across the country. We are a unique group of individuals that represent sports and that are fans of certain sports and fans of different teams of sports. So Definitely do check us out on our website, iesportsradio.com, as well as definitely check out all of our other shows. And again, subscribe to us on YouTube and follow us on social media. So I also need to make note of one more thing of NCAA men's volleyball, and then we'll move on. So Jessica Lance, the I guess she's the SID for the Big West Conference. She saw my post of the final point of UCI USC, and she said, "Can I use this for the Big West?" And I said, "Of course." And I thought that was pretty cool. I didn't know who that was. I'm like, Jessica Lance. I'm like, oh yeah, that Jessica Lance. So at first I didn't know who that was. It's like, oh yeah, that's her. So anyway, I appreciate Jessica Lance for reaching out and whatnot. So anyway, so let's actually talk a little NCAA beach volleyball. So beach volleyball gets underway this week. So the Thursday is when the NCAA beach volleyball season begins. So Hawaii is hosting a big time tournament this week, and they're facing a lot, and they're going to be hosting a lot of good teams, such as UCLA, USC, LMU, Stanford, Texas, Cal. Like, that's a loaded lineup right there. 5 of those teams are from the MPSF, and then you had LMU that wound up make it to the national championship duel last season. So some things to note for this season, USC is going to be back up there. I imagine USC is going to be really good this year, just like they were last year. I mean, it felt a little weird seeing USC not in the championship match, let alone not in the Final Four. And that loss to LMU in the quarterfinals, that was actually our head coach Dane Blanton's first loss in terms of the postseason. It had to happen eventually, but it was just an amazing run. And he didn't even feel bad when I ripped the Band-Aid off when I asked him that question. So at the MPSF Media Day. So I think for USC, they're gonna be back. I mean, they should be at least making the Final Four. I think USC does have a lot of upside. They got some good transfers. I think they got one good transfer from Utah. One player, Sarah Wood, graduated early, and now she's on USC. They obviously returned Kennedy Coakley and Ashley Pater. They have Kyra Zangel. The list goes on and on. They're not short of any talent by any means. Like, if anyone who thinks that USC is going to be rebuilding, no. Buy your stock in USC beach volleyball while you can. UCLA is kind of also going to be the same. They might be a little younger, but I think this team definitely has more upside. UCLA, I think, is going to be really just as good as they were last year. And then Stanford should still be up there. My big fear for them is, can they make it past the quarterfinals? Can they get past the NCAA tournament quarterfinals? That's my biggest concern for them. And then for TCU, they'll obviously be good. They're the reigning national champs. But my big thing is, do they have the talent and resources for an encore performance? That's my big thing, because they lose out on their two Olympians, their two Spaniard Olympians who were absolute studs. But I think this team is still going to be pretty darn good. They did lose quite a bit of talent to graduation, but they brought in some more talent. They brought in Natalie Glenn from Long Beach State, as well as many others. So I imagine this TCU team is still going to be up there in talent. Cal, I think, will be pretty darn good this year. I like the team that head coach Megan Owosu has. Texas is a team that I think you all need to really, really keep your eyes on this year. Texas had so many breakthrough moments last year. They pulled off their first upset. They pulled off their first ranked win. They beat LMU, which was a top 3 team. They wound up winning a conference tournament. They're now in the MPSF. They wound up winning an NCAA tournament duel, beating Cal. They made the quarterfinals of said NCAA tournament, where they wound up losing to the eventual national champion, TCU. So this Texas team, I think, is going to be even better than they were last year. And now I think everyone on the team believes more. Everyone wants to believe. And that's what Stein Metzger, the head coach, is trying to instill into them. And that's what he instilled to UCLA back when he coached the Bruins. That's what he's trying to do with Texas. And I think Texas definitely has what it takes to compete with the best. So buy your stock into Texas while you can. And then also do not sleep on Cal Poly by any means. They're the favorite to win the Big West Conference. My only thing for Cal Poly is, will they ever find a way to not trip up against Long Beach State in the championship duel of the Big West Conference tournament? That's my biggest thing. Speaking of Long Beach State, that's another team you all need to keep an eye out for. Long Beach is still just as good. They return a good chunk of their team. I imagine they're going to, they're the second best team in the Big West. I think they can be the best. If they come up big when they're supposed to, Long Beach State can definitely win the Big West Conference. I still think they're an NCAA tournament team regardless. My biggest issue for them is, when are they going to get past the first freaking round of the NCAA tournament? They have not gotten past the first round ever since the new National Collegiate Beach Volleyball Tournament format. So Long Beach State really needs to break through the first round. Last year, I think they lost to Florida State, which was a young Florida State team. So I need Long Beach State to find a way past the first round. I don't care what it takes. You got to get past the first round. Please and thank you, Long Beach. And then don't sleep on LSU either. I think this LSU team can still be pretty darn good as well. I think LSU obviously is a decent team. I think the biggest mistake is underestimating them. They've now transitioned into the MPSF. This is a team that I think is going to do some big damage. And Florida State is also going to be pretty darn good as well. I think because last year Florida State was pretty darn young last year. Last year was probably one of their more younger teams that they've had in team history or program history. Now they have a little bit more experience. I don't think they're going to get I forget their names. And the sad thing is I actually covered them. Regardless, I don't think they're going to get the twins from the Junk twins. They're not going to get Addison Junk and Avery Junk right away. And it sucks because if they got those two, that would be pretty darn scary. But they're not going to get the Junk twins early, but they should return like most of their players from last year. So I imagine Brooke Niles' team is going to be really darn good this year, just as they were last year. Trying to think of other teams that might be good this year. Boise State should be good. I mean, I can't imagine Boise State not being good. Arizona State might be decent. Will they make the tournament? That still remains to be seen. I think that's pretty much it in terms of like notable teams. FAU and FIU, don't sleep on them. GCU might be decent. Will they be decent enough to make the NCAA tournament? I'm not sure. Something to note is that GCU also kicks off their senior night on the first week of the season. So their first week is senior night, and then the rest of the way they are on the road. So that's and you know what's even worse is that GCU's a part of the MPSF. So they're basically swimming in shark-infested waters. Same can be said for Washington. So yeah, you have that right there. I'm thinking of who else might actually be decent in the NCAA beach volleyball realm. I think I've got pretty much all of them. If any other teams come to mind, do let me know. I pretty much nailed all of them. I mean, I can't imagine I missed a lot of any of them. There's Chattanooga, but North Florida might be decent after they had a breakthrough year last year. I mentioned FAU, LSU should be decent. Georgia State might be solid. Again, it's just a matter of who gets hot when it truly matters. Like if a team gets hot when right when they win the conference tournament, that's when the team could be on the rise. But if a team is getting hot early on in the season and then they start to dip, that's a whole different story. All right, but that is that for the NCAA beach volleyball portion of the show. I'm going to continue to try to keep the trend of going to NCAA beach volleyball duels alive. Last year, I went to the TCU tournament where I got to see Florida State, FAU, Boise State, Texas, and TCU. The previous year, I got to see UCLA and USC in a duel on USC Senior Day. I also got to see Long Beach State's duel where they hosted the likes of Arizona State, Texas, Nebraska, CSUN, and I think that was it. But again, I'm going to try to keep the streak of number of years I've gone to at least one duel alive. I promise y'all. Anyway, that's going to do it for the NCAA beach volleyball portion of the show. I will report on week 1 tomorrow. The AVCA also released their watch list of beach volleyball players who could be beach volleyball player of the year for the AVCA, but we shall see. I'm not too big on AVCA, the player of the year awards, but I digress. I'm not too big on watch lists. What I will say is that the AVCA needs a spokesperson for NCAA beach volleyball and NCAA men's volleyball, like they have former set point guest Daniel Gilman doing for NCAA women's volleyball. All right, moving on. Let's recap week 6 of the MLV season. So week 6 was rather a fascinating week. So we left off on San Diego Mojo Indy Ignite from week 5. So just quickly going through that matchup, the San Diego Mojo wound up taking down the Indy Ignite in 4 sets, which was rather surprising. I couldn't believe it. I'm like, no way. That actually happened? It's like, goodness me, that was a massive win right there. Like the best team in the MLV lost to the worst team in the MLV. Just shows that this is why you play the darn game and you don't simulate it like this is Madden. But I digress. So yeah, long story short, the Mojo lost the first set, and then they wound up taking the next 3 sets, which I thought was a pretty darn good win for them. So, okay, now we're officially off onto recapping week 4 of the MLV season. So speaking of the Mojo, they wound up backing up that win over Indy with a win over Grand Rapids on the road in 5, which was very good. Don't look now, but the Mojo have found their mojo. And the crazy thing is that the Mojo reverse swept the Rise on the road, which was pretty darn impressive, if you ask me. So the Mojo were led by Jovana Brakocevic. I'm going to butcher this name. Brakocevic. She had 18 kills and 15 digs. Grace Loberg added 14 kills. San Diego only hit 200, while Grand Rapids hit 204. The Rise were led by Carly Snyder, who had 22 kills and 12 digs. They also got 15 kills and 19 digs from Paige Briggs-Romine, but it wasn't enough as the Rise were reverse swept by the Mojo. I'm very surprised by how good the Mojo have been playing. They're not, dare I say it, bad. I mean, they're still pretty much below mid, but they're not terrible. Anyway, they're still pretty much in the depths of the standings. But speaking of 5-setters on Thursday, we also had the Dallas Pulse taking down the Omaha Supernovas in 5 sets for the first time in its team's young career. So the Pulse wound up losing to Omaha the previous week in straight sets in Dallas. This time around, Dallas paid back Omaha and wound up beating them at CHI Health Center in 5, which was very good. That's a very good win right there for Dallas, as they got 30 kills from Sofia Maldonado Diaz. Absolute outstanding performance. And she hit 312. Mimi Collier also had 17 kills along with 9 digs. I'm pretty sure she was not happy to be back in Nebraska because she's had a lot of good memories and not so good memories as a member of Oregon and Wisconsin's women's volleyball teams. Dallas hit 272, but Omaha hit 362, which was pretty impressive, as the Supernovas were led by Brooke Nuneviller, who had 14 kills. They also got 13 kills from Emily Londot, and then they got 10 kills from Toyosi Onabanjo. But it wasn't enough, as I'm a little surprised the Supernovas wound up losing this one. I mean, Dallas is good. Let's not twist words here. Dallas is a good team. I'm very surprised Omaha, which was which was red hot. I think they won like 4 in a row. They wound up hitting a tough patch right there. Speaking of teams that have hit a tough patch, Orlando. Oh my God. Orlando, the Valkyries, they wound up hitting a tough patch against the Indy Ignite, as the Ignite wound up taking down the Valks in 4 sets. So Indy was led by Azani Teeler, who had 23 kills and 8 digs. They also got 10 kills and 12 digs from Lekator member Monet. Great to see her healthy. The Ignite only hit one. They hit 162. Wow. While holding Orlando to only hitting percentage of 160. As the Valks were led by Hannah Maddox, who had 13 kills. Yeah, only 13 kills was the kill leader for that team. Naya Scheim added 9 kills. They also got 8 kills from Bree Kelly. And that is pretty much it. So no Brittany Abercrombie still. Yikes. No Brittany Abercrombie. And they didn't have Charity Looper playing. So, God, this is not... God, Orlando is going through it. They must be getting bitten by the injury bug and then some. So if you're Orlando, you better you better reevaluate your medical staff, because you need your star players out there. You need Charity Looper out there. You need Brittany Abercrombie out there, because this is not the reigning champions that I've come to see. Saturday, you had 2 sweeps. You had the Atlanta Vibe, you had the Grand Rapids Rise sweeping the Atlanta Vibe, which is kind of surprising, as the Rise were led by Paige Briggs-Romine, who had 13 kills. They also got 9 kills from Carly Snyder. As a team, Grand Rapids hit 324, while holding Atlanta at only 179. The Vibe were led by Aiko Jones, who had 13 kills, and then they got 9 kills from Raven Colvin. But I'm a little surprised that Grand Rapids lost this one. So 2 days after getting reverse swept, they managed to sweep a solid Atlanta team. So I'm a little surprised by that, but it is what it is. I mean, this is the MLV we're talking about. And then Larry B pops in the chat room. He says, T-Rod. Good to see you, Larry. Thank you for popping in. All right, and then now we got this little matchup. So this took place at Nationwide Arena in Columbus. You had the Dallas Pulse sweeping the Columbus Fury. So don't look now, but the Dallas Pulse continue to win no matter what, as Mimi Collier led the way with 23 kills. Sophia Maldonado Diaz added 16 kills. Not as big as the 30 kill output that she had against Omaha, but still pretty solid. Dallas hit 375. Well, even they hit 375, even though Columbus hit 295, which is pretty good. Long story short, I don't think defense existed in this match, as Raina Terry led the way for Columbus with 15 kills, while Akasha Anderson added 10 kills. Unfortunately, it was just not enough, as Dallas just continues their red-hot streak. I think this Dallas team is starting to become really dangerous. And then Sunday, you remember how I said the San Diego Mojo were finding their mojo? Well, Indy kind of brought them down to earth. And I think Indy was mad at the Mojo for losing to them last Monday, as the Indy Ignite just torched the Mojo in straight sets, this time in Indiana. So at Fisher's Event Center. So the Ignite, they had 2 solid bounce back wins after losing to San Diego last Monday, as the Ignite were led by Lekator member Benet, who had 13 kills. They also got 10 kills from Anna DeBeer. As Team Indy only hit they had 262, which is not bad. They held San Diego to only a hitting percentage of 103. Woof! That is ugly. As Grace Loberg led the way for San Diego with 11 kills and 8 digs. They also got 7 kills from Jovana Brakocevic, but it was just not enough for San Diego. That sweep wasn't as surprising as this sweep. This sweep was surprising. The Orlando Valkyries swept the Omaha Supernova. So between these two teams, it's like the second time in as many weeks that the Supernovas and the Valkyries have met one another. And this time around, Orlando got the better of Omaha at CHI Health Center. I'm very surprised Orlando wound up sweeping their way to victory. Keep in mind, they didn't have Charity Looper. They didn't have Brittany Abercrombie. They also didn't have Chompu, their setter. They had to go with Hannah Pukas as their setter, but they still wound up winning. But Lucas Slabe, their head coach, said it best. We were off. Of course you were off. You lost to a team missing 3 of their best players at home. You were at home and you lost to a team missing its star opposite, its star outside, at least one of them, and then their star setter. Don't get me wrong, Orlando is well coached, but Amy Pauley is a fantastic coach, by the way. Let me just put that on the record. But I'm just very surprised Orlando, missing a good chunk of its team, wound up sweeping Omaha on the road. And here's the crazy thing. Omaha had Brooke Nuneviller. They also had Sydney Hilly, their starting setter. Who else did? And by the way, I should also mention that Omaha did have like a major blockbuster trade to, I think it was Grand Rapids. They traded Morgan Hentz for Elena Ogilvy and a first-round pick. So Omaha is building for the future. But what I want to know is, why are they trading one Stanford setter for another? I'm also wondering, why are they trading? Was Morgan Hentz on the Olympic? I think she was on the Olympic team, but I don't know if she got to see much playing time, or the national team. But either way, I'm not going to knock this too much just because they got a first-round pick out of it, and heaven knows if Grand Rapids is going to be good this year. It's looking like it's not going to be good, so Omaha might be thinking 2 years down the road, or 2 or 3 years down the road. But still, I mean, and Ogilvy isn't a bad libero by any means. It's just that who was their starting libero as of right now is Allison Holder, who had 9 digs, which is pretty good. But still, Omaha wound up losing in straight sets to Orlando, who was missing like half of its starting lineup. Anyway, so for the players that were there, Orlando was led by Nia Scheim, who had 13 kills. They also got 7 kills from Bree Kelly. They got 6 kills from Hannah Maddox. Maddox didn't even have her best match. She hit 0 for the match in terms of hitting percentage, and Orlando still wound up winning. But here's where Omaha really struggled. They struggled hitting the ball. They hit 0. They hit .063. I don't know how Omaha wound up losing that one. That win was right there on a silver platter, and they wound up losing to Orlando that was missing a massive chunk of their team. Just shows that the MLB is so unpredictable this year. But it's good that Orlando snapped its skid, because, God, that was a long skid. I was wondering if Orlando was ever going to win a match. So Indy is in first place in the standings, followed by Dallas, Omaha, Orlando, Atlanta, San Diego, Grand Rapids, and Columbus. So I don't know what pick that. I think it's this year's draft that Omaha got that first round pick. But if it is the first round pick and Grand Rapids continues to be bad, then Omaha is really thinking 10 steps ahead, which is a smart thing to do, which is something we would expect from John Cook. But I digress. Anyway, so looking at week 7 of the MLV season, Thursday you've got Columbus Fury at Atlanta Vibe. So it's mid versus the bottom of the barrel. If Atlanta wants to prove itself as a playoff team, they might want to actually win this one. My big concern is, what Columbus Fury team are we going to get? Are we going to get the Columbus Fury team that looks good at times, or are we going to get the Columbus Fury team that looks as bad as the Cleveland Browns? And we don't know what Atlanta Vibe team we're going to get. Are we going to get the Atlanta Vibe team that looks really good on paper, or are we going to get the Atlanta Vibe team that doesn't look good on paper? But also on Thursday, we have the battle of the top 2. Now, this is going to be a good matchup. You got Indy Ignite at Dallas Pulse. This one is going to be very fascinating, if you ask me. So Indy did have its little bit of a, I would say, clunker matchup. I'll just say that they had kind of a stinker of a matchup against San Diego, because there's no way they should have lost to San Diego. There's no way Indy loses to San Diego. I don't care. I do not care if it was in San Diego. Indy should not have lost that one. So Indy kind of had their stinker matchup, and they got back on track by taking down Orlando. Now let's see how they do against Dallas. Dallas is going to be a real big litmus test for the Ignite. Saturday, Indy is also back in action when they play at the Atlanta Vibe. So they go from Dallas to Atlanta. So that's, again, it's another little bit. I would say this is a big test. I would say this is kind of a gut check matchup. It's a road matchup, their second road matchup in 3 nights. So I wouldn't say this is going to be a gimme matchup. I will say Indy's got to be on its P's and Q's. Otherwise, what happened last week against San Diego could happen against Atlanta. So, and Atlanta, Atlanta is going to have I think they should at least split this week. I can't imagine Atlanta somehow losing to Columbus. But again, you never know. I said the same thing about other teams. Anyway, so Sunday, you've got Grand Rapids Rise at Dallas Pulse. So the second best team versus the second worst team. If Dallas wants to, again, this is kind of the case of if Dallas wants to get closer and closer to the top and get closer and closer to the playoffs, they might want to start continuing to win their matches. This is probably the best opponent that they could face. Now, that said, they just can't underestimate this opponent. I mean, Dallas is kind of that. I mean, they're playing great as of late. It's just that I don't know. I still don't know what Dallas team we're going to get, because Dallas has had a few close calls against certain teams. I'm trying to see who else they swept Columbus the first go around, and then they beat Orlando. Like, I can't imagine Dallas. Dallas has not really had too much of a clunker match. They haven't had too many clunker matches, if you ask me. Like, they've actually beaten most of the teams that they're supposed to beat. Their only losses are to Omaha and Indy. So I can imagine Dallas is going to come in with a whole lot of determination. I think this Dallas team is actually pretty darn decent, if you ask me. And if you want my honest opinion, I think they could actually win the whole thing. Now, I don't want to put them on a pedestal just because you still have Omaha and you still have Orlando, even though Orlando's licking its wounds. But at the same time, I think for Orlando, they're still licking their wounds. And this is the perfect opportunity for Dallas to pounce and lock up and build their lead over Orlando. Anyway, and then looking at the rest of the Sunday slate, you've got Columbus Fury at the Orlando Valkyries. All right, this will be on CBS Sports Network, by the way. This is an interesting matchup. So if there's ever a match for one team to win, I mean, both these teams definitely need the win. Orlando needs to get back on track, and then Columbus, they need as many wins as possible. Like Orlando, I mean, they did get back. What am I saying? Orlando got back on track against Omaha, but at the same time, however, I think Orlando needs to continue to build things up. They also need to get healthy. They need to get Abercrombie and Looper and Champu back, whatever is gone wrong with them. So I think for Orlando, this should be a gimme win for them. but you never know with Columbus because Columbus could play its best match randomly out of nowhere. And then you have the Omaha Supernovas at the San Diego Mojo. So the Mojo, they were on a 2-game win streak. They got swept by Indy. They're facing an Omaha team at home, mind you, at Viejas Arena. That's lost 2 straight after winning, I think, 4 straight. All right, my thing is for San Diego, they're playing better, but I want to see what they can actually do against Omaha. I think Omaha should win this one. Omaha knows that it can't fall further back in terms of the standings because right now they are only a half a game ahead of Orlando just because they played one more match ahead of the Valkyries. I still can't imagine Omaha dropping out of that top 4. I think the top 4 might be finalized already with the Ignite, the Pulse, the Supernovas, and the Valkyries. I can't imagine one of those teams not being in the playoffs this year. But then again, you had the Vegas Thrill being in first place after winning 7 in a row and being in first place. And then they had a free fall, losing 9 straight and never recovering. So moving on, Omaha needs this win. I really think Omaha needs this win more than San Diego does because San Diego has way more ground to make up if they want to get back to the playoffs. But Omaha, I like Omaha's chances in this one. My only fear is that they get the road gets the better of them, which I highly doubt that they will. Marcus Lestreet pops in the chat room. He says, salute to you too, brother. Thank you. I appreciate you. All right, that'll do it for the Week 7 preview of the Major League Volleyball. All right, now let's go on into LOVB or Love. All right, so Week 6 was actually the LOVB Classic. So first, there was actually a match beforehand. There was LOVB Nebraska taking on LOVB Houston. And Houston continued its red-hot streak as they wound up sweeping Nebraska 25-21, 25-17, and 25-14. Long story short, I'm not surprised by this too much just because, well, Houston's red-hot. This is a really good Houston team. And Nebraska, I think, is kind of going the wrong way, which is not good on their behalf. Houston got 17 points from Jess Merzick, and then they got 18 points from Jordan Thompson, and then 10 points from Maddie Rochelle. And then Nebraska got 15 points from Kim Drunick, but that was pretty much where the buck stopped. All right, so that was the only non-LOVB Classic match. So that was just the first match of Week 6. So the LOVB Classic, this took place in Kansas City, and all matches were streamed on ESPN+. What I also didn't know was I totally forgot there was a club volleyball tournament, the Triple Crown, in terms of club volleyball. This is how much I know about club volleyball. It's so tough to follow the club volleyball season because there's lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of club volleyball teams, especially on the girls' side. It's so tough to keep track of everything. It's and if I talked club volleyball on here, this match would legit be 2 hours, but I digress. Anyway, LOVB Classic. This was okay. Something I do want to make note of is that they need to bring back the tournament for this whole thing. Avid Volley on X said it best. LOVB or Love needs to bring back the tournament format for the Love Classic, just because, for starters, it's there's nothing on the line here. You don't get a reward. You don't get a trophy. I think it's pretty lame. And also, I hate, spoiler alert, all these matches were sweeps. Every match of the Love Classic were sweeps. I'm flabbergasted if you ask me, but it all started with Salt Lake sweeping Austin 25-23, 25-17, and 25-18. Salt Lake is red hot, and there's a reason why they're the best team in the league, while Austin is the third best team in the league. Salt Lake, man, this team is I wouldn't say this team is unstoppable, But I'm just going to say this team is just on one. This team is just really darn good. This team is just a wagon, if you ask me. So overall, I was just generally impressed with Salt Lake. And then that was on Friday, by the way. Saturday, we had Nebraska taking on Atlanta, and Atlanta wound up sweeping Nebraska. So you remember how I said Nebraska's going the wrong way? Well, this loss kind of reinforced that narrative. Nebraska's got to snap out of it ASAP. And I'm just going to also say this. Nebraska can't always play Madison every single week. They got to actually beat other teams. But Atlanta beat Nebraska 25-22, 25-17, and 25-20. And to close off the Love Classic on Sunday, you had Houston sweeping Madison 25-20, 26-24, and 25-19. Houston is still red hot. This is why there's a reason why they're the second best team in the league. This team is just on one, and this team just continues to just win. They're keeping pace with Salt Lake, who is just on fire. But Houston is just as red hot. So this week 6 was rather a quick week. It was just sweep city. There were just brooms all over the place. Now we jump to week 7. So we go from 6 to 7. Spare me the 6-7 jokes, y'all. Anyway, so week 7 starts on Thursday with Atlanta taking on Houston. So standings-wise, it's the middle of the pack versus the second best team. This one I think should be pretty good. This one I think is going to be a litmus test of Houston's map, of where Houston's at. And honestly, this one can be a real trap game matchup, just because if I would not be surprised if Houston looked ahead to their matchup against Salt Lake, because that's like the battle of the top two teams right there. And it's so easy to look past an opponent that is currently in front of you, and you're just itching to try to get that oh so delectable matchup against someone else. But Atlanta should be a decent opponent for Houston. I think Houston, if they keep playing the way that they're playing, like Jess Merzick just continues to be Jess Merzick, and Jordan Thompson just continues to be Jordan Thompson, I think Houston wins this one easy money. And then we jump to Friday. We have Madison at Austin. So it's it's this worst team in the league versus the third best team in the league. Madison, I don't know where Madison's going to be winning. Where's the win going to be coming from when it comes to Madison? I don't know where it's going to come from. Austin is still going to be just as good. Austin is still pretty good this year. So I think Austin should win this one, but you never know with Madison. Maybe this is the match where Madison snaps out of it. But I think I know where their matchup could also be. Snapped, or their losing streak could be snapped, but we'll see. And then Saturday, you have obviously the big matchup, Houston versus Salt Lake. All right, it's first place on the line. This match should have been played at the Smith Fieldhouse. No, I'm sorry. It's on a Saturday, which is when BYU plays Fort Valley State. I'm sorry, y'all, but they could have played this at University of Utah, couldn't they? Maybe they have a men's or women's basketball game that night. Anyway, so Salt Lake Houston is the battle for first place. I just think that, no offense to Salt Lake City College, I just would rather see this in a bigger venue. This should have been in a bigger venue. But Salt Lake Houston, this is going to be barn burner. This is going to be a fun matchup right here. And then Sunday we have a doubleheader. We've got Austin versus Atlanta in the Battle of the A's. So this is kind of the middle of the pack matchup. And it's funny how Saturday through Sunday is formatted. Saturday is the two best teams in the league. And then the first match on Sunday is the two middle teams in the league. And then the last matchup is going to be the two worst teams in the league. But Austin-Atlanta should be a good matchup. Atlanta's going to be tested this week against some really good competition. They've got the Texas two-step. They've got Houston on Thursday and then Austin on Sunday. So in terms of rest, Atlanta has that advantage. But in terms of talent, I think Austin has that advantage. But we shall see. Also, I think this is a revenge matchup. I mean, what I haven't been mentioning is last year's playoffs. Atlanta wants revenge over Austin after they reverse swept them out of the playoffs. And then Sunday, you've got the bottom of the barrel matchup. Forgive me, Nebraska and Madison fans. You got Madison at LOVB at Nebraska. So this one's going to be played at Baxter Arena in Omaha. And something to note. This is something to note here. This is going to be televised on ESPN2. Oh, LOVB, why did you have to televise the wrong matchup? Why did you have to put this matchup on ESPN2? Like, I get it. I kind of get it just because Madison and Nebraska have two really good fan bases, and we're going to be seeing a pretty sizable crowd. But they have to be at the bottom of the standings. But I think it's pretty cool that we're going to be seeing pro women's volleyball on national TV, which I think is nice. But, man, again, where's the win going to come from in terms of snapping this streak? I think Madison should win this one. It's going to be in Omaha, though. That's my biggest concern. And if Madison has any sort of motivation to beat Nebraska, got to remember last year's playoffs. Madison was the 3 seed. Nebraska was the 6 seed. Nebraska knocked them out in 4. There you go. But Nebraska, they're on a little bit of a losing streak of their own. Like, where's the win going to be coming from in terms of snapping their losing streak? So I think for Nebraska-Madison, this is the battle of who wants to snap their losing streak more. And hopefully for the sake of one of these teams, they'll be able to do so. Hopefully for the other team who doesn't come out on top, they're able to snap that losing streak sooner rather than later. But I digress. So the following week, which is week 8, there will only be 3 matches, and some teams will be on bye. So, and then I think week 9, everyone will be playing again. So might as well go over week 8 just briefly. Salt Lake plays twice. Nebraska plays once. Atlanta plays once. Austin plays once. And there's one missing. Salt Lake, Nebraska. Madison's on bye. So Madison will be on bye next week. I think they've earned the bye just because they've been oh so bad this year, but I digress. But what we're looking at is week number 7. So it's a full slate this week, and we get a nationally televised match this week. This is going to be awesome. But that'll do it for week 7 of the LOVB or Love preview. And ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for this week's episode of Set Point. I know we had a lot more volleyball to discuss, but that's just the way it is. I promise you all I'll try to shorten it next week. But for everyone here at iSports Radio, this is Teran Rodriguez signing off. Have yourself a great rest of the night. Enjoy all the volleyball action. Keep an eye out for some hopeful content in the near future. Take care, everybody. Peace.
Yeah.